Hello everyone, welcome to a new episode of Brew with Memli. And today I'm going to show you how to brew any coffee. And we will start with the newest coffee that we are going to release. When you have a new coffee that you don't know about, I hope you have some kind of information like the farm, the origin, the process, etc., etc. The more information you have about your coffee, the better you can create a system for that dedicated coffee. What I like to do first is to grab this information, right? I have here a Bolivian geisha washed process, and when I look at my beans, they look a little bit on the lighter side. As you can see, they have this like slightly lighter shade. So that's our first piece of information. By having a geisha wash process from Bolivia, I know that I'm going to use a temperature around 93 degrees Celsius. Why? Because I want to extract not just the floral and delicate notes, also want the stone fruits coming from the geisha. Because it is a lightly roasted coffee, I may grind my coffee a tad finer, just a little setting finer. That's how you have to change that system that you start with from the coffee. If you have a more anaerobic, more processed coffee, drop the temperature to 86, 87 degrees. If you have a more high density, very high grown, washed African coffee, for example, you may want to jump your temperature to 94 degrees, vice versa. So always have this range of 84 degrees Celsius to 94, 95, up to 96 degrees Celsius based on the origin of the coffee, the process, and the roast. If you have the same coffee but a darker roast, I drop my temperature to 85, 86 degrees Celsius, for example. So always start with those parameters. Now, for our recipe, we are going to do a bypass. I will show you here how to brew any coffee that you don't know about using the bypass method. I'll first rinse my Hario switch, and then we'll come back with the recipe. Before we start, let me introduce you to this wonderful coffee. Our washed geisha here comes from Finca Golondrina in Bolivia, sitting at 1700 meters above sea level and produced by Celso Maita. Celso was producing coca leaves before, and he decided to drop producing coffee, but then he joined some classes and really fell in love with the coffee production. And as a result of his dedication and his relentless obsession for quality, he arrived second, I believe, in the Cup of Excellence in 2016. And today, he produced super clean wash process despite having less rainwater. So it's a huge challenge, but he managed to produce excellent washed coffee. And here we have a washed geisha, as I explained, with notes of apricots, elderflower on the floral side, and some apple and honey in the finish. So a very stone fruity, sweet geisha with a nice floral aspect. And I really chose this one to showcase how by being true to our nature and to our craft, we can produce excellent coffee. So I grind my coffee a little finer than usual. I used to do 8.5 on my leading. Now I'm at 8.25. My water is heating up at 93 degrees. And our recipe is the following. We are going to start with 20 grams of water, 2-0. And we're going to do a 1 to 10 ratio. So 20 grams in and 200 grams of water. Why would I do that? Well, I'm going to do a bypass. So I will brew a stronger cup of coffee, and then I will dilute it, and I will explain all the math behind. Let me get my water, and let's start with the recipe. Because this coffee is quite light, quite bright and delicate, I want to bump up a little bit my texture. How? I'm going to do immersion towards the end, but I will start with a bloom or first pre-infusion using 60 grams of water. My second pour will be about 40 grams up to 100. And then I will do 100 grams of immersion. So first bloom, about 60 grams, 50, 60 grams. Why I'm using 60 grams instead of 50 grams? Because we need at least 3 times the amount of ground coffee. After 40 seconds, I will pour my second pour of 40 grams, starting this time from the outer and ending up in the center. And I will let it until it's completely dry here. And usually it should take another 30 seconds-ish. Now, once it will dry, I will flip the switch, close the valve, and start pouring 100 grams. So now we are dry on the top at 1 minute 10, and I make a note at 1 minute 10 because I want to let it steep here for less than 1 minute. So about 2 minutes, I'm going to open up the valve. I often let it steep anywhere from 45 seconds to 1 minute. It really depends on how much texture you want to give. If you leave it longer, it's good. You're gonna have a very creamy cup of coffee. However, you may have lost some clarity. So for this coffee, I like to let it steep for about 45 seconds. So at 1 minute and 50, 1 minute 55, I will open up my valve. Here we go. So this is the first time actually I'm brewing this coffee. I just roasted it. I did the QC yesterday, and now I'm just seeing how it brews. And when I have a new coffee like that, well, that's the recipe I'm doing. I'm doing my classic recipe as well, the 4 pours, but I always want to know how this coffee um, evolve and how this coffee reacts with certain strength and TDS especially. And we are done at 2 minutes and 25 seconds. 27. All right. What we will do next now is the dilution. What we will do next now is the dilution. So I will take another container. I'm going to measure how much coffee I brewed. 154. So now we are going to do some mathematics. We have 154 grams of coffee brewed, and we're going to first add a fourth of it. That's about 35 grams. I will first add 35 grams. And then a little taste. Good, but a little intense. Like you have really the stone fruits, but a lot of intensity, a lot of strength. So now what are we going to do? I put 35. We are going to take a fourth of that. And that's about 7, 8 grams. But let's round it up to 10. If you are scared about over pouring, you can always use your spoon like this. It's always about 9 up and 10. And we do the same. Bit better. Still a little intense. So I will add half of that. So about just 1 cupping spoon of it. So about 6, 7 grams. Here we go. And now it should be perfect. Nice and balanced. We didn't lose our texture by adding water, but we had a great stone fruit florality and sweetness. So let's sum up. We had 20 grams of coffee and 200 grams of water. We did 3 pours, 1 pour of 60, 1 pour of 40, flip the switch to immersion for 100 for 45 seconds. We flip the switch and open up the valve, and we let it drain, and we finish about 2 minutes and 25 seconds ish. We had 150 grams, 54 grams of a coffee brewed. We first added 35 grams, then about 10, and then about 5, right? Yeah, that's what we did. We did 3 add-on, but every time reducing the amount of water you and bypass you're adding on. So we added about 60 grams of water after for a total of water to 260. And that gives us a ratio of 1 to 13 for this coffee to really brighten up and making it really loud in terms of flavor expression. And on the taste, it is extremely stone fruity, very floral, very sweet, and that will be that will show you really everything you have about this coffee. Now, if you prefer more florality, maybe adding more water will weaken up, of course, the texture, but it will highlight more that floral texture. If you really want to brighten up, maybe adding less water, and then you have a very intense cup of coffee. That's basically how you brew any type of coffee. You choose the grind size, you choose the water temperature based on your coffee. If I had, for example, I don't know, a low-grown coffee, what would I do? Well, I would probably do a full pour structure, right, to highlight more the clarity and still use this cone shape. If I had a very bright African coffee, I may use a flat bottom, like an Oria, for example, and with still 4 or 5 equal pours. So the recipe of the concentrate, it also depends on the coffee. Once you have your concentrate, you measure how much coffee you have brewed, and you're adding 25%. Once you add 25%, you taste, you add, you taste, you add. And every time you add a little less, right? Because you don't want to overshoot. And once you're happy, well, you sum up. And then when you brew next time, you can brew straight with 260 grams of water. Thank you very much for watching. I hope it was helpful. And see you next time for more brewing.